Earlier this year, I revealed that Joe Biden wanted to use COVID-style restrictions in order to combat climate change. And now that he is president over the United States of America, that plan is going full speed ahead. In fact, the Vatican just came out and called for an unprecedented collective response to combating climate change. And Joe Biden, like an obedient little salivating puppy dog, immediately pounced on the action, if you will, and started making more restrictions here in the United States of America. And I think this is something that you all need to be desperately aware of. But before I get into that, I want to give a quick shout out to my partner at preparewithlisa.com. If you guys don't have food storage, I want to highly recommend that you check it out. And right now they've got amazing specials on preparewithlisa.com. They've got that 4-week food supply kit as well as the 2-week food supply kit. And this is personally who I use for my food storage. So check it out at preparewithlisa.com and get your family prepared for disaster today. All right. So with that, let's dive into what's going on over at the Vatican. Here we are on Breitbart.com. Vatican calls for unprecedented collective response to climate change. The article goes on. The Vatican has called for a responsible, unprecedented collective response to the monument challenge of climate change. Speaking on behalf of Pope Francis, Vatican Secretary of State Cardinal Pietro Parolin said in an online address on Monday to the Climate Adaptation Summit taking place in the Netherlands that climate change, quote, represents one of the principal challenges facing humanity in our day. It goes on, the scientific data at our disposal clearly shows the urgent need for swift action, the cardinal said. The transition to a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions is a problem not only of the domain of technology, but also a question of consumption patterns, education, and lifestyle. So there you have it. Over at the Vatican, they are really pushing the idea that there needs to be some kind of international global body to combat climate change and the unprecedented collective. When he says collective, that's what he means, a global effort to combat response to climate change. And what does Joe Biden do? He jumps in on the bandwagon. Now, he's already been jumping in on the bandwagon for a while. We know some of the things that he already did. Here we are in CNBC. Joe Biden rejoins the Paris Climate Accord in the first move to tackle global warming. I was so excited when Trump pulled out of that, but here we are right back in it. And this is going to head America straight into the direction of more taxes and carbon taxes and these kinds of things. And this is on an already hurting society, having gone through the pandemic. And here's another thing that you guys are aware that Joe Biden has done. This is on Newsweek. Over 1,000 jobs have just been cut by company building Keystone XL pipeline after Biden completely ends the project. These are 2 big executive orders that he signed and did in order to combat climate change. Not only that, but there's also this article on environment, the nationalnews.com, Joe Biden to make tackling climate change a national security priority. And this is a very recent article. John Kerry, the new U.S. president's climate envoy, says plans represent the greatest, this is a key, economic transformation in history. And they really and truly mean a transformation of our entire economy. And he intends to do that. He absolutely intends to do that. He just proved that he'll put thousands of people out of job by ending the Keystone pipeline. He also proved that he's going back into things like the Climate Accord. This is definitely the direction that he's heading. And when he says revamp our entire economic system, that is really and truly what they intend on doing. Here's other things that Joe Biden has done. And this is on dailycaller.com. The Biden administration is considering allocating COVID-19 funds to climate change programs. Who agreed to move those funds to climate change? If we're not going to use them for COVID, then they need to go back in the system because, hey, your checkbook is broken. You're overspending. You're overspending. And so here we're going to take this money and allocate it somewhere else. The article goes on to state this, and I think this is important. The Biden administration is considering authorizing FEMA to allocate COVID funds for climate change projects, the New York Times reported on Monday. The plan would reallocate part of FEMA overall disaster budget to projects designed to preemptively address the damage of climate disasters. The agency wants to build a seawall and elevate to relocate homes and floodplains with the funds. FEMA plans to include funding allocated for COVID-19 response in its restructuring of the budget, according to the Times. And FEMA director basically said that the estimated found is $3.7 billion that could go to these programs to address climate change. Did they always have the intent of allocating those funds from COVID to climate? Because that seems like a pretty big excess of funds, $3.7 billion. But they're literally being allocated to this climate change. And like the article said, Joe Biden is planning to make this a national security priority, which means it gets front and center attention. And a lot, not all, of the policies that Joe Biden intends to do are going to be coming here very quickly. And you know what? As he said before, he intends to do COVID-style restrictions to combat climate change. Here's some of more of what I'm talking about. NewYorkTimes.com. Biden sets in motion plan to ban new oil and gas leases on federal land. The article goes on. Biden on Wednesday said he'll direct federal agencies to determine how expansive a ban on new oil and gas leasing on federal land should be, part of a suite of executive orders that will effectively launch his agenda to combat climate change. That's according to two people with knowledge of the president's plan, right? An eventual ban on the new drilling leases would fulfill a campaign promise that infuriated the oil industry and became a central theme in the fight for critical background states of Pennsylvania, where the gas extraction methods known as hydraulic fracturing and fracking has become big business. So there you have it. The president also said he will direct the governments to conserve 30% of federal land and water by 2030. And he's got this task force in place. And of course, he's also signed a whole slew of executive orders, and this is on January 20th, executive orders on protecting public health and environment and restoring science to tackle climate change. The thing with science is it can be double-sided, right? Science has hypothesis, and you use that hypothesis to form a theory or whatnot, but it can have many avenues. But to sit there and say, it's fact, you're completely discounting the meaning of actual science. Science means to study, examine, and come to a conclusion, right? And you can come to a lot of conclusions based off of simple studies, but I digress. But he's got a lot of policies in here that he's really added up. And I'll leave that in the description box below so you guys can kind of dig through all of that. But bottom line, I think that Joe Biden is going to be one of the biggest pushers on this climate change, global warming, global cooling, excuse me. I don't know what name they want to use today for it, but hey, snowed in Arizona today. I don't know, up north. But anyway, it's just crazy. All I know is that Joe Biden is really intending to push this forward. And I'm honestly terrified at what this is going to do to our economy. We have a right to understand and to know that he intends to flip our economic system inside out. And with Justin Trudeau and Carl Schwab and all these people talking about the Great Reset, it really has me thinking, what is the reset plan here in the United States of America? And what I've seen so far from Biden is a complete reset of our economic system, pushing us in a literal new Green Deal direction. Anyhow, I love all of you. Thanks again for tuning in. And please don't forget to get on over to restrictedrepublic.com. Right now, we have that amazing special of $5 a month for an entire year. Use the code TRUMP and you can get it for that $5 fee for an entire year. But this is where I share exclusive content and also content without commercials. I publish YouTube videos there as well. Anyhow, I love all of you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.